Wham! Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk. Intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
And good Saturday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to catch my drift here on Wham Talk 1600. Glad to have you aboard. Sunny outside for a change. Nice. I don't know how long it'll last. Probably not very long. That's here in Michigan anyways. And if you've not tuned into the Drift radio show before, thanks for tuning in. What we do is go over the news of the week that we've put up on thedailydrift.com. If you're not going there, you should be. www.thedailydrift.com. It's the news you need to know. So make sure you're going there. Check it out. If you got links that you find that I've missed and you want to share them around, get them to me. Send me an email, Gary@thedailydrift.com. You can also get hold of me on Twitter @GaryDailyDrift or on Facebook, Gary Wellings. I'm the easiest man in the world to find, it seems. So check it out. Let's take care of a little business. Our sponsor this half hour, Wellbridge in Brighton. It's if you have some issues and you need to get a little recovery and rehabilitation going on, check out Wellbridge. 517-947-4400, the Wellbridge Group. You can check them out online as well, thewellbridgegroup.com. Great place to get your authentic hospitality and the help you need to get rehabilitated. So post-acute rehabilitation and nursing care. Make sure you check them out. It's 517-947-4400. Okay, so I wanted to start out with just talking about, I think Matt hit it, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, Barack Obama going to Cuba while Brussels is being blown up. And folks, if you haven't figured it out, this is what unlimited immigration will do to a country. Europe is besieged. The culture is being changed. It's being pillaged. And those people, a lot of them are the roots. If you're a European descent person, you probably have ancestors that grew up in Europe in some place. That part of the world is not going to be the same 20, 30 years from now. It's not the same now as it was even 10 years ago. And the unmitigated immigration that's flowing into Europe from the Middle East, and I'm not knocking all Muslims, so don't think that I'm a racist or a religiousist or anything else you want to call it. The people that are going into Europe now do not have the same values, and they're coming in such number, there's not going to be time to assimilate. What will remain in Europe is completely different. To add to that is the fact that you can't control and properly vet who's coming in, and that's why you have terrorists throughout Europe now. ISIS itself is claiming 400 people are ready to strike in Europe. 400, that's a pretty good group of terrorists to be running around loose in Europe. And this is what's happening. Now, Belgium even had information and intelligence from Turkey. Turkey was complaining that they weren't acting on it. The U.S. was complaining they're not acting on it. Europe is in trouble. We are in trouble. We already have training camps here in the United States, and this is what drives me absolutely crazy. You can see it on Google. It was on the news the other night, just locally here. There are camps all across this country where people who of that ISIS-supported mind are training, and our government does nothing about it. Why? Because we have to be so politically correct that these people have rights, and we can't just go in and stop their camps and their training grounds. What you see in Brussels is going to happen here. Mark my words. It's coming, and it's coming fast. So when you have a candidate who's not ready to stop, slow down, or cause a temporary ban on immigration coming from the Middle East and the other parts of the world that are troubled, you're not doing your part, because every candidate who cares about this country and our values and our culture should be looking at that. So make sure you vote this time around. You vote with your head, not just your heart. Okay, I'm not going to tell you who to vote. If you're a Democrat, do the same thing. Take a look at your candidates and say, that one just is not right. I'm not going to go into Hillary and bash all that today. What we are going to talk about is probably the dirtiest of elections, and I'll expect the phone lines to light up, 734-822-1600. Love to have your phone calls in. We've probably all seen it by now. A lot of people probably don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it because, you know what? It's in the news, and right or wrong, truth or fiction, it's out there and it needs to be looked at. Because you know what? It's not just Republicans. If there is something hiding in these Ted Cruz sex scandals, the Democrats are going to bring it up. So it's probably just as well to get it out now, get it out of the wood pile, and let's take a look at it and see if there's nothing there. And I'm not claiming that it's true. I don't know. I don't have all the facts. All I can show you and tell you is what's in the news and, frankly, what's not in the news and should be, because this is an issue. It's no different than a birther issue for Ted Cruz. Right or wrong, the Democrats are going to bring those things up, and so you have to look at these things now. This is what a primary is all about, folks. It's about properly vetting a candidate. And if we don't weed out the ugly parts now, the Democrats will be sure to use it against us in the fall in a general election. So make sure you do that. This week started out, we thought things were dirty. I know people don't like Donald Trump. He's rude, he's brash, he's bold. You may not like Donald Trump, but he's right on the immigration issue and the trade issue, which is what's killing this country, both economically and from a national security standpoint. So I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not going to brazen it or kowtow my remarks. I used to like Ted Cruz. I used to like him a lot. Ever since Iowa, I've kind of been going downhill with Ted Cruz. And so what I want people to look at is what happened this week. A super PAC. Okay, now, it is against the law for campaigns and their super PACs that support them or don't support them to discuss things. That's the law. They can't be emailing, can't be having meetings, blah, blah, blah. But if this is America, if you don't think a super PAC that supports a candidate does not have any communication with the candidate, you're an ostrich. You're sticking your head in the sand. You're being naive. You know each and every one of these super PACs. And you know what? This is what it comes down to. You can't be a hypocrite and take the support of a PAC and then not worry about it when something bad happens or a bad result comes out of it. Let's take a quick call from Joe, who wants to talk about. Joe is a great big Cruz supporter, so let's go, Joe. Give me your shot. What's your
friend? How are you?
You too. What's going on? You don't believe the National Enquirer, which I know everybody's the National Enquirer, but go ahead, Joe. What do you got?
Every once in a while, they do indeed get a story straight. So
they hit Gary Hart, right?
And admit that.
Yep.
But and I was. Last week, I did a whole litany of Donald Trumpocracy. I won't go back into that again, but I think you're engaging in a little now. I was actually going to defend Trump. There's a hashtag out there, Trump loves Pecker. Was going to say...
I thought I heard it all, Joe.
David Pecker being the National Enquirer guy. And
okay.
Trump engaging in childish petty crap, we can mockingly engage in it back with the the Trump loves Pecker hashtag, double entendre. But anyway, I was going to defend Donald and say I don't really believe that he has anything to do with the National Enquirer putting that in, because the Enquirer endorsed Trump. The Enquirer previously attacked Carson and Fiorina on behalf of Trump. But since you took this line that it's okay to blame Ted Cruz over the PAC thing, why shouldn't I then blame Donald Trump for his good friend putting that Ted Cruz sex scandal thing in the National Enquirer?
Joe, you are welcome to blame anybody you want for anything. And I guess this is what it comes down to. What I'm saying, and it goes across for Donald, too. If you have PACs that support you, what you need to do is come out and say, hey, I don't support that, I disavow that. And that's where I was leading to. The first attack this week came out. Once again, it wasn't Donald starting it. The first attack was the super PAC that supports Ted Cruz that attacked Melania Trump by putting a picture of her expose on GQ or whatever out there. And you know what? That's probably wrong. And that's fine. They're a super PAC. It's America. They're allowed to do whatever they want. But instead of Ted saying, hey, that's not right, I disavow what they did, you guys shouldn't be doing that, which is all he had to say. Had he said that, it would not have gone farther, and Trump would not have said one word about Heidi Cruz. Ted failed to do that. This is the same as Ted going back into Iowa and not firing somebody when he had people on the ground saying Ben Carson was withdrawing from the race. This is the same Ted Cruz who refused to fire somebody because they put out a letter that was official looking and which is a misdemeanor according to the Secretary of State of Iowa. Ted is not taking the same responsibility that he wants others to take. And so, when we talk about character, and he himself will say it starts at the top. Well, Ted, it starts at the top. You know that PAC is for you. You should have just said, hey, that's not right. Donald, I'm sorry that happened. That's all he had to say. Why didn't Ted do that? You tell me.
Well, my friend, you are way too smart to believe your statement that Donald Trump would have not still blamed Ted and tried to make as much hay about it and attack Heidi, even if Ted would have said that.
No, I don't believe that. I truly believe that had Ted come out and stood and said that's wrong, I disavow it, Trump would have said thank you, and that would have been the end of it.
And let me explain why you are wrong that Ted Cruz started it, or Trump didn't start it, you said. Let me be correct. Trump did start it. Need we remind people of Trump attacking Jeb's wife during the debate?
Let's not go back. No. I'm going to cut you off right there. No, Joe.
Photo of Megyn Kelly.
No, come on. Let's focus. You know what, Joe? Hold on. Joe. All right, let's just put Joe on hold there because, number one, those kind of tactics, when you start shying away from this argument and bringing in another argument, that's what the left does, Joe. And we can't do that. This is a fact. The fact is Ted Cruz Super PAC attacked Melania, which led to Trump attacking Heidi. And whether Trump is related to this Inquirer story, I don't know. But let's face the facts. Everything that we're seeing now is that this story has been in the background for 2 months. Allegedly, Rubio people were looking at it, didn't want to run with it. It was the Washington Post, the Washington Times, Breitbart. Everyone was looking at it, didn't want to go after it because they felt they didn't have enough information at the time. Now, go back to square one. This argument this week started, and I don't know that the Sex Cruz scandal would not have come up. It probably would have. Anyways, you're right. Whether it's Donald or something else, it's too juicy of a story for people not to get. And the mainstream media is going to pick it up eventually because they can see that the ratings are there. As soon as somebody jumps on, the rest will jump on the bandwagon behind it. But let's go with track one because some people want to blame the Rubio people. Some people want to blame others. Anonymous, the big group that's out there hacking stuff all the time, did this. Derek, let's run this. They put out I'm only going to do part of it, number one, because I can't stand the background music, and number two, because it gets into a lot of stuff that I don't really want to listen to again. Go ahead and play that track from Anonymous.
This is Anonymous. This is an open message to you, Senator Ted Cruz. Your lying during this presidential campaign has gotten out of control. You have committed voter fraud to steal votes that do not belong to you. The fraud you have committed against Mr. Carson will not be tolerated. You thought that you would get away with this, but Anonymous will not let this go without repercussions or consequences. Anonymous does not forget. We will not sit and watch the citizens of America fall for it any longer. Almost every word that comes out of your mouth is a complete lie. And you, Mr. Cruz, have been hiding behind some very dirty secrets that lie beneath the surface. Secrets that you believed would never haunt you. But as you should know by now, Mr. Cruz, we are anonymous. We expose the fraud that seeks to have power over our great country. It's time that America knows your deep and dirty secrets. We have done our homework, Mr. Cruz, and since you can't stop your disgraceful and ridiculous political manipulation, it's time that we tell America what's hiding behind the curtain. Have you heard the expression candy wrappers?
Okay, so number one, I don't want to hear it. If somebody calls up and says Donald Trump runs Anonymous, I'm going to tell you to beat it, because you know what? Anonymous is a very powerful set of hackers, a global unit that can do just about anything they want. And they've exposed people, and they've worked with all kinds of people they tried exposing stuff about Donald Trump a couple of weeks back, but it was stuff that Donald was like, so? What do I care? And that's the thing. If there's something going on with Ted Cruz, I don't know that there is. I'm not saying this sex scandal is true by any stretch of the imagination because I don't know that. What I do know is that something else is happening out there. There is information slowly leaking out, and all we can do is wait and see. There could be some more information falling out here. The Amanda Carpenter is supposedly one of those women that the